Okay, D, I want you to chime in. So when it comes to this poor in spirit, we've got a generation where you should have, prosperity. We created the image that a successful minister is this. But where is the humility in that? How do you maintain being an effective servant, having a poor spirit, but then, thinking that you can own the world? That you can just kind of run and do your own thing.
I think that's a contradiction.
That's what I would assume.
Yeah.
But our church is saying that you can gain the world, gain happiness, best life now. Yet when you talk about suffering, being poor in spirit,
and while a part of me doesn't argue that, I think that we can enjoy some of the pleasures of this life, some things in this life. But I think that we ought to balance ourselves where that doesn't consume us, so that we keep our focus on what our purpose in ministry is. I always look at Paul. Paul said, I learned to be at base, I learned to be abound. If I got to work, and I got to tell you, one of the most disgusting things to me is someone who thinks that it is their ambition and their objective to live off of the ministry. You can't come unless I get this amount, or I won't come unless you give me this deposit first, and then I'm guaranteed to get the rest of it later. What is your purpose in ministry if all it is to you is another opportunity and another check? What is your passion for the people and your passion for the gospel if the only thing that you're committed to is what you're going to get from it? We need to learn what it means to really be like Paul and say, if I got to preach in the gospel, I'll preach it. But if I got to build tents the rest of my life to survive, then I'll do it.
See? Right. We've all been there where, and since we kind of segue to when it comes to, ministering, even Paul said in the New Testament where he talks about, a prophet, it has a reward. The people should take care of him. But what about working in ministry? Many of you guys work, you in ministry, and even if you could do full-time ministry, is it a smart thing to do full-time ministry, but your account is based off of people giving to you? How do you maintain poor in spirit knowing that most of these pastors, their paycheck comes from the church? So it's difficult in times. They challenge where it's like, if you ain't got no money, you trying to be poor in spirit.
If the church is able to do it, God bless them. Right. Let them do it. But don't grind the people if they can't do it. Okay. The scripture tells us in Luke 6:38, and I think that we say this to entice people to give. God loves a cheerful giver.
Right.
And then somewhere in that verse it says that the people are not give grudgingly.
Yes.
Yes. I think that really speaks to the person who's making the appeal, that you ought not give people, that you ought not, it ought not be trickery and gimmicks that you give people, that people are giving grudgingly. People should be able to give freely. They shouldn't be enticed to give. They shouldn't have to be coerced to give. Admonish the people to give. If they have it to give, God bless them to give it. But if they don't, we shouldn't feel bad because of it. We shouldn't feel bad. No one should ever have to sit and wonder, should I give this offering because of what he's saying, or and allow my lights to be turned off?
Right.
But I really feel like even the book of Acts where Gamaliel, where I think it was John was preaching, right? And he was out there preaching, and they were the message that they were preaching, they were against it. So they came to Gamaliel and they said, well, what's going on with these guys preaching about Christ? And he said, well, if it's of God, you can't do nothing about it. Right. And if it's not of God, then it'll come to nothing. Right. If your ministry is of God, you ain't got to coerce nobody. Because if it's of God, it don't matter if nobody give nothing. God is going to make that ministry stand for years and centuries to come. Just like the church of God. When they started off going around preaching the gospel, they didn't worry about where my money at, how much money we going to have to go here. Are you going to pay me to come and preach? No. My responsibility is not to care about finances. My responsibility is to preach the gospel. God will supply my needs. When I have to coerce people, that means I don't trust God. Right. That means that I trust myself and what the people give me. Right. Then I'm already losing. Right. Because then even if they pour in the money, my faith I'm lacking faith in God, man. And I'm a man of God, woman of God, and I lack faith in God. If it's of God, nobody can mess it up. You know what I'm saying? I should be able to give freely. You know what I mean? To give cheerfully. Now what happens is, in the inner city, I mean, we just got this issue. We never do it. In the urban areas, we got the issue where we have to spend like an hour and a half. You know what I mean?
Where did that come from? Sorry, where did that come from?
It came from lack of faith, man.
Lack of faith. Money and 2 minutes on souls.
You know what I'm saying? we the altar call need to be quick.
Right.
The offering needs to be long. We've
Right.
expanded the offering, and the altar call is like, oh, let's hurry up and get them out. Let's get on out of here. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
There's a breakdown. I don't see that in here.
Yeah.
I have seen them take out time, weeks, months to win the souls of men, and I've never seen them take even a chapter talking about give. I don't see that in here. You know what I mean? Let the people give out of their hearts, out of their souls, out of their love for God. Encourage them to give out of love for God, and encourage them to bind on. I mean, that's a yoke, man.
Yeah. Isn't giving a part of your relationship? I mean, you shouldn't have to ask someone to give if they believe in something.
I'm going to try to find this real quick, but I've been rereading the book of Acts, and one of the things that you mentioned kind of prompted me to go back here, and I think it brings this conversation full circle to the first point you had about the effectiveness of ministry. When Peter and John went into the temple at the hour of prayer, one of the first things they said when they looked on that beggar was, silver, gold have I none. Which to me spoke that their position was not me doing ministry for physical or monetary gain. But if you read the chapters after that, you find how they were being locked up because of the gospel that they preached. The rulers had a problem because they felt as if they were turning the people away with their doctrine, and they prayed, and when they preached the gospel still, the people gave. They laid their offerings, they sold their possessions and laid it at the apostles' feet. They weren't called first to do it.
Wow. That's good, man. We don't want to go back to the foundation of how they did it. I mean, they laid it out. Everyone brought what
and
they
some
had.
churches, I mean, I don't know what churches are big on doing this, but and how effective it really is, but dare we go back to the day where we just allowed them to drop their offering in on their way into the sanctuary?
Isn't that how the temple did? Before they even got to the place of worship, there was bins for the offering.
Right.
Put your offering in so that'll be out your mind, and so you can go to worship.
Go to worship.
You know what I'm saying? Like, but we leave the worship pan by the Holy of Holies,
right?
And that's never how the temple was set up. Put your stuff in the pan before you get to the stairs that leads up to the next level. Before you leave to the stairs where the Levites are singing. You know what I'm saying? Before you get to the holy place. Before you get to the most holy place, because God never intended for that to be on our minds like that. And then here's the other thing that I gotta say. Yeah. I know it might hurt some people or something like that, but I'm just gonna tell the truth. The truth of the matter is this: is that most of the time while we're spending all of this time on offerings, is because first of all we're trying to build a building, and we're trying to build an idea that we have in our heads, that we call a vision from God, but what it really is just a conglomerate of all these businesses that we want to put out there and stamp God's name on it. When the truth of the matter is, God may not call you to a mega ministry. You know what I mean? Joel Osteen got a big church. You know, T.D. Jakes got a big church. But you may be called to 5 dudes to disciple just like that. And Jesus had 12 cats and discipled them to the point where they turned the world upside down. What's the problem with you just having 10? Right. You know what I'm saying? And send them out. And that's maybe what God has graced us to do. I had to deal with this a long time ago. I had this thing in my mind, this concept in my mind about how God was going to bless me through ministry. And I thought it was going to be, I go to the youth ministry, go to the youth ranks, climb up the, the ladder. The ladder, and get to the national level and do a lot of work that I really didn't want to do to get to the place that I wanted to be, and then become big time preacher, have one of the biggest churches in LA or in the valley, whatever it was, you know what I'm saying? And I was just gonna do that and just I still had the, love for God's people and all that, but I wanted all the stuff that came with it. You know what I mean? This cookie cutter thing that we see about that's church today. You know what I'm saying? But what God did was He destroyed that. You know what I'm saying? Like my wife just came to me one day, she was like, what if God doesn't want you to pastor right now though? And my heart was
probably difficult to look outside.
My heart I was like, no, this is what I'm born to do. How could you even say that? You're my husband. How could you even say But she was really being my help.
Right.
She was like, no, reevaluate, dude. What is God really calling you to? And then God just softly, just like, impressed on me. He was like, you're dealing with the death of your fantasy. You got a fantasy and a concept of what I'm going to do in your life. But I got the blueprints, dude.
Yeah.
I got the blueprints.
Right.
I order your steps, me, not you. You know what I'm saying? So he destroyed my concept of what he was going to do in my life, and now he's like, okay, now since you're finished playing, let me roll out the blueprint. This is what I really want you to do. You know what I'm saying? Go do it. This is what I've graced you to do. And like Trenton said, whatever God calls you to, he will finance. I ain't gotta beg nobody for it.
How do you kill your fantasy? I mean, the idea of being in church. I remember I got my minister's license at 16, and ever since then, the church has created an idea of what success is. So then at 16, I wanted to be one the most anointed, wanted to preach, I wanted to teach this and that. As I grew up, then I started dealing with my addictions and dealing with my lack of, and I'm reminded of you want to be this and this and that, but you don't even see that in yourself.
Now you get the wisdom to kill your fantasy yourself, or God to do it for you.
True. The Bible says, if any man will come after me,
Let him first.
let him first. I mean,
Nice.
not second, not third.
First.
3 points on the
First.
first. Let him first. Deny himself, take up his cross and follow me. You don't have that. You think you have something, you ain't got nothing. The vision that you supposedly have should come from God, right?
Right.
And that should be a denial of yourself anyway. So my aspirations, I should never put mine on the front of aspirations, because it ain't mine. God gave me this. I didn't call myself to pastor. I didn't call myself to this office. If it was up to me, man, I'd
still
be chilling. I would be on the other side of this, like chilling, doing work, sipping coffee, man, just enjoying the other aspects of life. I didn't call myself to this, and I'm not going to take myself further. It's all you. You show me the way, and I walk.
Wow.
I mean, just piggyback that out there real quick. Whoever shall lose their life shall find it.
Yes.
Whoever tries to keep it is going to lose it. He's telling us, dude, like, decrease, like, forget about you, because now that I'm saved, now that I know he's done the work for me, now that I know I'm called, my whole life is aimed at the glory of God. If my life isn't aimed at the glory of God, I need to check myself and sit down. Real talk. Because if everything about me doesn't aim at the glory of God and say, no, it's not about my picture on the flyer. It's not about, my picture on the banner in front of the church. It's not about, my institute. It's not about that. It's about the will of God. And then I want my life to point to him. After I die, I've been thinking about this. I know it's a little more moral, but I've been thinking about this. I've been thinking about, after I die, what will my Facebook and my Twitter and my wife and my children and the people and my dogs around me, what will they say about my life? Right. Will they say more about me, or will they say more about him? Right. You know what I'm saying? Because I want somebody like, if the only way I want to die famously is if I die for the faith, and then somebody would be like, okay, Anthony Dorris, like, inevitably somebody's going to Google, you know what I'm saying, and see your Twitter page and see what you've been talking about. Right. I don't want to be talking about nothing stupid on Twitter. I want to be talking about something that gives God glory, you know what I mean? So if I do happen to die in that, you know what I mean, my life gives God's glory, not, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's what I want, man. I don't want no building, dude. I want people to hear Christ, man.
To come back full circle, you said what makes a person who's attracted to the gospel stay with the gospel. I think it's us, from what I'm hearing, is us dying, consistently dying. When we come to God, we come to Him realizing that what I've been doing, who I am, has never been enough, and He's what I need. And to stay with that, to stay with Him, means that I'm continually dying. Because what happens to us is that we continually allow flesh to rise up, and we allow our agenda to rise up and supersede our need for God. We've been saying, we come to Him, we say, God, I do need you, but our agendas, our motives have begun to rise up, and we want certain things. But when we teach ourselves, or when we come to Him and we allow ourselves to die daily, always evaluating ourselves, always taking inventory of who we are and what we've learned, and dying to Him, I think that's what keeps us in the place where we're growing in Him, where we're in a place where we're continually staying attracted to Him.